Hey guys, another video for our how to do stuff in Japan playlist. We received a message from someone who had seen a story about walking and eating, or eating and walking, or eating while walking. They'd seen something on the internet about it and wanted to know if it was true that it was not cool to do in Japan. We did actually address this on a video previously some time ago. That person hadn't seen it obviously, and we couldn't recall which video it was on, so here it is again. Yeah, it's true. They said that in the story they saw that the reason that was given was that apparently there's a sign somewhere in a tourist area that said please don't eat while walking, and sort of there was different languages there to explain it, and then there was some images as well. And the reasons given was that if people drop food while they're walking, that it makes a mess, and that the skewers from the yakitori and the other types of food that are on sticks, that those skewers could be dangerous if you're walking while you're eating one. So, which is sort of true. If you're in a big group of people, there's lots of people moving around, and you're putting one of those in your mouth, and it does get hit, it could be dangerous, possibly. It's possibly true. So yeah, the answer that we gave to that person is yeah, it's true that it's not cool to do. As for those being the reasons, yeah, they could just be excuses. Quite often, and we've talked about this before, to maintain the status quo in Japan, people are often quick to give you reasons. So you'll find if you're talking to your Japanese friends, or if you've got Japanese family, if you're talking to them about something and say, I've noticed this, why is that? They'll always come out with reasons. And sometimes it's reasons that make sense. You go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or sometimes it's just off the cuff. They desperately try to find reasons, even if it's something really strange, right? That's a bit hard to justify. They'll often come up with reasons why it's the way it is, you know. And an example of that, just off the top of the head, an example of that was, we made a story once about the truck drivers driving really, really dangerously and over the speed limit, and not stopping at stoplights, and driving close to the cars in front, and just generally being dangerous, generally, not all of them, but a lot of them. And we asked some Japanese people, as we do, friends and family members, before we make videos like that, we always ask them to see if they've got any idea about it or any thoughts on it. And a couple of them said, oh, it's because they're on tight schedules. You know, and it wasn't. The fact is that a lot of people are killed every year in Japan by truck drivers driving too close to the car in front and too fast, and now and again there's a big accident on the highway and people get killed. So that's the reality of it, and everybody knows that. And instead of saying yes, it's dangerous, that's not what they said. What they said was, yeah, they're on tight schedules. So it's an automatic reflex. So in that case, they're actually justifying something that's dangerous and kills people. But it's an automatic reflex that they have to justify. And if you're married to a Japanese person, you'll hear it all the time. There'll be something that's possibly not a good thing, and you'll say, geez, that's a dangerous thing, or that's not a good thing. And their first reaction isn't to say, yes, it's dangerous, or yeah, you're right. Their first reaction is to say, oh, it's because of this. And it's this natural thing that a lot of Japanese people have for maintaining the status quo. It's a natural response to anything like that, any sort of question about anything. So as far as the walking while eating thing, it's not surprising that the justification or the reasoning was given that, you know, if you walk, and fair enough, if you're walking while you're eating, you may well drop food. And in this tourist area, they were saying it was a problem that people were dropping food on the ground and making a mess. And, you know, possibly true. And the stick thing about the pointy stick in your mouth is dangerous when you're walking around. Hard to know if they meant you could poke someone else with it, or you might get hit and it might go back in your throat or something. But yeah, so the answer, the point really is, and the reason for this video really is and maybe more importantly than those 2 points, is that eating while walking is considered to be really uncivilized. In Japanese society, generally, by most people. It's not to say that you'll never see it. You know, if you spend enough time in Japan, you may well see it. But the interesting thing is, if you spend enough time in Japan, you so rarely see it, that if you do, it does look a bit uncivilized, because you rarely see it. And it is considered to be uncivilized. And it's sort of it sort of makes sense, really. I mean, the way it usually works here is that there are often, at festivals and at events and things, there are often street vendors that we buy food from. But usually what you do is you buy the food, you don't open it, you don't start eating it, you look for a place to sit down or even stand if you have to, but just off to one side in a corner somewhere, or somewhere you can sit down preferably, and just sit there or stand there quietly off to one side and eat it. And that's the way it's usually done. So to buy something from a street vendor and then just walk down the street eating it and looking around is considered to be uncivilized, or as our Japanese friends would say when we asked about this, what do you think about eating and walking? Geihin, which is sort of like low class. Another way to say uncivilized, isn't it? A low class. It's low class. Walking and eating is low class. So yeah, again, and as with all our how-to videos or videos on things like this, you know, you can do it if you want to. These videos are just telling you what we see and what we hear, and so there's a really good chance that if you do walk and eat at the same time, eat while you're walking in Japan, that people will be looking at you and thinking that you're low class or that you're uncivilized. And they probably won't say anything to you. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we've had reactions to videos like this in the past, where people watch a video like this and then say, that's not true. You know, I did that all over Japan and no one said anything, you know, which always makes us laugh, because it's like, yeah, well, of course they didn't. Because telling you that walking and eating at the same time is uncivilized, they would consider it to be an uncivilized thing to do. And this is one of the reasons we make the how-to videos, is that most of these things that we talk about, nobody's going to tell you. You know, even if you're with some Japanese people, they will be embarrassed. If you're with some Japanese people, probably. I mean, it's not always the case. And that's the other thing we often get. I've seen Japanese people do that. Yeah, that's true. And you might also see old men here pissing on the street too. And you really do. You'll see old men find a corner somewhere and piss. And you'll see young people doing things, and you'll see all sorts of stuff. But those people will be considered gay and uncivilized. And if you want to copy them, you can. Of course, and no one's going to hassle you about it. No one's going to say to you, hey, you shouldn't do that. And if you are with Japanese people, or if you're traveling with some Japanese people, or you're hanging out with some Japanese people, and you do any of these behaviors, there's a good chance they won't tell you. They'll just let you do it, because they're being good hosts and they don't want to make you feel embarrassed or uncomfortable or anything else, so they'll just let you do it. They might even do it with you, and there's often examples of that, where some foreigner comes to Japan and does something that's not considered to be a good thing to do at all, but to make them feel comfortable and not embarrassed, the Japanese people who are with them will do the same thing, just to make them feel good, just to make them feel okay. And the funny thing is, of course, that the foreigner won't know. So they're walking down some place in Kyoto somewhere and dodging all the selfie sticks, walking down the street eating something, and the Japanese people that are with them might do it too, and the foreigner won't even think about it, will they? Because they're too busy looking around, having a good time, and they won't be aware of it until they watch this video and they go, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, that's right, Yoshi and Maya both were eating when I was walking too, that's right. So yeah, look, our advice with all these things, it's just advice. If you want to do these things, you know, people will let you do it. No one's going to say anything. There's no law about it. It's just etiquette. It's just etiquette, and what's considered to be good manners, what's considered to be civilized and not low class, basically. So the best thing to do is to find your tasty thing, find a little corner somewhere to sit down and quietly eat it as neatly and as quietly as you can. And a little bit of an extension, or a little bit more on this, chewing, therefore. Chewing gum isn't a very popular thing in Japan. It does exist, it is here, but chewing, walking around chewing, is considered to be similar to walking around eating, right? So you don't usually see it. You don't normally see people walking around going kung, 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 kung. And if you do, gay hen, right? Gay hen. So again, chewing gum, yeah, better off not to do it, or not to do it where people are going to see you doing it, because it's going to look like you're walking and eating, isn't it? You know. So yeah, best off, our advice: don't do chewing gum, don't walk while you're eating, and that's that. So yeah, the answer to the question is yeah, it's true. It is true. So up to you whether you want to do it or not. Anyway, there it was, just a quick one. More videos coming soon.